Hello folks, Scott with Dallas Paint Correction and Auto Detailing. I just want to make a quick video about something that's kind of, I don't want to say this will ruffle any feathers, but I kind of want to give you some of my thought process about what is the best tire dressing. Most professional detailers will use a water-based dressing. There's Meguiar's Hyper dressing, there's Chemical Guys VRP, there's Stoner Trim Shine, which actually happens to be water-based. So a lot of us on a professional level will say, what is the best tire dressing? Well, most of us will say a water-based dressing. Why do we say that? Well, one, they don't sling as much. They also don't tend to be glossy, wet looking. Dust doesn't like to stick to them. They're easy to remove. So we like to use water-based dressings, and I would agree with all of that. My next question to you is going to be, is a water-based dressing the best dressing for everyone? Well, this is where I kind of think outside the box a little bit, and I have a different philosophy in my business, and I've got some proof to be able to maybe get you guys to think outside the box a little bit. So typically 90-95% of the time I'm going to use a water-based product, and I'm going to put it on this tire. I want to show you this tire. If we look at this tire here, the last time I cleaned this tire was on July 8th. Holy crap, it's going on a month, right? There's all sorts of browning in that tire, all the way around the tire. It's got browning on it. Maybe if we get in close, we might see it. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's got browning. You can see some of the browning there. Well, one of the things that professional detailers will tell you is if you use water-based dressings, they won't turn the tire brown. Well, let me give you a history about this tire. It hardly ever gets a tire dressing on it. It happens to be my car. If I do use a tire dressing, I will use water-based, but typically I never put a tire dressing on my car, and it still turns brown. Well, why does it do that? Well, this tire happens to be a Michelin. This thing likes to get brown awfully quick. You know, the anti-ozone to come into the surface so it turns brown. So I just wanted to prove a point that water-based dressings don't stop browning. Petroleum-based tire dressings don't cause browning, okay? Because the tire's already brown to begin with, and I typically never put a tire dressing on it. Now, I want to take you to another tire. Back on July 8th of this year, which is now almost a month, I used on this tire here, let's get down low and let's talk about this. What I used on this tire was a petroleum-based product. Look at that tire. It's going on almost a month. The tire is absolutely clean. It's got a nice satin finish to it. It's still black, still somewhat, maybe it's got a little bit of a sheen to it. It's great, but I'll be honest with you, that tire looks the same as the day I dressed it on July 8th. Well, guess what I used with it? I used Stoner More Shine tire finish, which is petroleum based, which is an aerosol. I want to ask a question. As a professional detailer, are you always using a water-based dressing for all your clients? Now, typically a lot of professional detailers will say yes because they don't like these things. They sling. They're a little bit harder to remove. Some professional detailers think they turn the tire brown. Not necessarily true. I think I proved that on the other tire. But here's my question to you as a professional detailer. This happens to be my car, but what if this was a client's car that only uses me every 6 months or maybe once a year? Or let's say it's going to be a client that only will use me once and I might not see them again. Will I use a water-based dressing on a customer's car in that scenario? Well, folks, I have decided I will not use a water-based dressing for customers that do not use me very often. That might sound a little crazy and out of the box. And if you notice here, I've got no sling on this paint. There's some traffic film on this car. I've got some dirt. I've yet to wash this thing. But there's no sling anywhere from the tire dressing. The tire dressing has lasted a month and still looks great. I promise you this tire will look great in another month from now, and then it will start to fade. It will start to break down. That product there will last sometimes up to 60 days, and I get no sling with it. So why do I even bring this up? Well, I've had scenarios in my career where I've had a one-time customer or a customer that may only use me once every 6 months, once a year, and they'll say to me, hold on folks, I got a motorcycle going by. And they'll say to me, Scott, I love your detailing services, But why do your tire dressings only last a couple of weeks? Sometimes they don't even last 2 weeks, depending on how the car is used. And I look at that customer and I say, well, I only use water-based dressings. Water-based dressings don't sling, they're not shiny and glossy, dust won't stick to them, and that's what we use. I've had many customers say to me, well, that's wonderful, but I don't like the fact that in about a week or two from now, the tire's not going to look all that great. You've made the whole car look wonderful, and the tire fades awfully quickly after you're done with the detail. And most people in the real world who are not professional detailers, who are not car enthusiasts, they're using petroleum-based products and they're seeing a lot of longevity out of their tire dressings. Yes, it's problematic because it slings. Yes, it's problematic because it reactivates when it gets hot. But my point is, if you want to think outside the box as a professional detailer and you're dealing with customers you may never see again, or you see once every 6 months or once a year, you might want to consider using a petroleum-based product like this Stoner More Shine tire finish. When applied correctly, it will not reactivate in the sun. It will not sling on the car. It will last for almost up to 2 months, depending on how you use the car. Let's be honest, water-based dressings will never give you that type of performance in the real world. So sometimes you want to stand out in the crowd. You might be dealing with a one-time customer. I've had one-time customers and I've used this product on their tires and they'll call me several months later and go, Scott, what did you put on my tires? I've never seen a tire dressing last that long. It did not sling on my paint and it still looks wonderful after a couple of months. What happened? I'm relevant to that customer. They called me back. They had a question. I stood out in the crowd because I was not the typical professional detailer that only uses water-based dressings for every one of my customers. I hope this kind of makes sense a little bit. Sometimes as professional detailers, if you watch a lot of videos on YouTube, they'll convince you that water-based dressings are the only way to go. My thought to you is, I'm not telling you how to think, I'm not telling you what to do, but ask yourself that question. If you're going to deal with a one-time client, you may never see them again or see them once a year, would a water-based dressing be the best dressing for them, where it might only last 2 weeks, maybe you get 3 weeks out of it, sometimes you may only get a week out of it if you've got really bad weather coming after your detail. A lot of customers, folks, will not. I've told customers before I use water-based dressings and I tell them why, and I also tell them why they don't last all that long, and they look at me like a deer in headlights. And they go, well, I kind of want to use a tire dressing that lasts longer. So guess what? I do it and I use this product that will not sling on the car, will not reactivate in the heat. It will stay glossy, a matte finish like that for several months. And that's when I tend to use petroleum-based products for those type of customers in that scenario. And I can't tell you in my career how many times I've had what I thought was going to be a one-time customer will call me about that and go, come detail my car, Scott, because whatever you put on my tires lasts incredibly long. You must know what you're doing. It's just a thought. I'm not telling you to use petroleum-based products, but sometimes as professional detailers, you got to think outside the box a little bit. You got to see the bigger picture. Don't get stuck in the rut that you're only going to use water-based products all the time, because some of your customers may not be satisfied with a 1 week outcome, 2 week or 3 week outcome, and they kind of feel like they've been shorthanded. Now, people that are on my maintenance programs, people I'm seeing more often, water-based products are more sufficient, more appropriate for customers like that. And let me tell you something. Some people will tell you that a petroleum-based product is hard to remove from the tire. Well, this particular Stoner Car Care More Shine tire finish is very easy to remove off the surface. I don't have a hard time with it. Yes, there are some petroleum products that can do that. But that's my point with this whole video, which is 9 minutes long. As a professional, do you always want to use a water-based dressing for every one of your clients? Or perhaps you want to think outside the box a little bit, give a customer a lot of longevity where you stand out in the crowd, yet you're not having anything sling all over the paint. The tire will look great. That customer may call you back because they're awfully impressed with some of the products you use. And you did that by getting out of the idea that you've always got to use a water-based dressing. I love water-based dressings. 95% of the time it's what I use. But that tire is completely brown. I didn't put any type of dressing on it a month ago. All I did was clean it. And then about 2 or 3 weeks later, I start seeing the browning come back. It's got nothing to do with water-based or petroleum-based products. It's just the anti-ozone that's coming to the surface. So that's my little video, my little rant about which is better, water-based or petroleum-based tire dressings. Well, I'm going to ask you, who is the customer? What is the scenario? What's the outcome they're looking for? And if you're going to use a petroleum-based product, find ones that work exceptionally well, like that Stoner Car Care True Tire Finish. It is exceptional, no sling whatsoever. Doesn't reactivate in the sun when you first apply it. It has a satin matte finish. It's not wet, not glossy. Dust and dirt does not stick to it. You might want to use those for your customers that are customers you don't see very often, or might be a one-time customer, because that customer may be awfully impressed with how long you allowed that tire to stay nice, true, and black. And then they might not be a one-time customer anymore. They might be a customer that uses you more often. As a professional detailer, you got to think outside the box. You got to think long-term down the road. Don't just put water-based dressings. Well, I'm not telling you what to do, but if you just put water-based dressings on every customer's car, you may lose the battle a little bit, not win the war. Some customers just don't care. They want a tire that's going to stand out for a long period of time. So think about that. I just wanted to, it's not a quick video because it's kind of controversial at the same time. This professional detailer chooses what tire dressing he's going to use based on the customer and how long I may see the customer or never see the customer again. I kind of want to pull that customer into me and show them I can give them long-term results that look amazing. Appreciate it, guys. Until next time, love one another.